Hey, it's Monty, and this isn't the content I normally create, but I wanted to step into something a little bit different, and so I'm creating some short documentaries on the OCE Rocket League community. I've been involved in the OCE community for quite some time now, first as a fan and now as a commentator, and looking back on some of OCE's first performances at Rlcs is really nostalgic for me. So if you were around when OCE first got their shot at Rlcs Worlds, this video might be a little bit nostalgic for you. And if you weren't there to see it live, maybe this will give you an opportunity to learn a little bit about OCE's history in Rocket League. This is something completely different to what I normally do, but please do give it a chance, and if you do like it, let me know. I don't expect this video to do well in terms of global views, but maybe in the OCE community, there can be some support around it, and I'll look at doing more in the future. Thanks for watching, and enjoy. OCE was the first region outside of Europe and North America to be given access to the Rlcs. Oceania would be given the opportunity to send 2 teams to Rlcs Worlds in the 3rd season of Rocket League's premiere event. It's pretty safe to say that the majority of people watching the event didn't have high hopes for the 2 OCE teams that took to the stage for the first time. However, an Australian team was able to pull off the first real international upset at the Rlcs. First, let's give a little bit of context. Alpha Sydney, the first seed from OCE, would be playing against Denial Esports, the 4th seeded team from North America, while OCE's 2nd seed, Just a Minute Gaming, would be playing EU's 4th seed and eventual champions of the event, Northern Gaming. For this video, we'll be focusing on Alpha Sydney, the first expansion team to ever play at the Rlcs. Before we get into Alpha Sydney vs Denial Esports, let's take a look at who Alpha Sydney were and how they put themselves on the world stage. Jake, Drippe, Torsos. 3 names that OCE will remember for a long time. The trio formed a team called Cringe Society, created after the 3 players would often find each other in competitive ones and hit it off. The team would play one event under the title Cringe Society. In this event, they'd qualify for an OCE LAN at PAX Australia. Less than a week after the team had formed, they were acquired by Alpha Sydney. They would go on to place 4th out of 4 teams at the PAX finals.
And came 4th in our first tournament out of 4 teams. Really successful.
Roughly 5 months later, Alpha Sydney would enter a qualifier for the OCE League play that would select the OCE participants for Rlcs Worlds. Alpha Sydney would secure their spot in the league play, with wins over White Cloud and Sydney Esports. Alpha Sydney would go on to dominate in league play, winning 6 times and only losing once in 7 series, including 5 3-0 sweeps. This dominance in league play would secure Alpha Sydney 1st seed leading into playoffs. In the playoffs, Alpha Sydney would win their first matchup, the upper bracket semi-final, 3-1 against one more.
They certainly do. Cool backboard pressure being built by Jake. They'll probably be able to make something of it. This is a typical Alpha Sydney play.
Goal square. Now, Jake brings it back. Who's it to? It's the Drippe, lobs it in. Drippe with 1:30 into overtime. Alpha Sydney, they take another game.
They'd then face Sandcastle in a 7-game thriller, which Alpha Sydney closed out in the upper bracket final, which secured their spot at the Rlcs Worlds.
Crazy defense by both teams. So much backboard pressure.
It's
Coming up. It's in front of the goal. It's there. He's done it. We have LCS.
Jake's done it.
Jake. Alpha Sydney. Woo.
Holy moly.
Alpha Sydney and Just a Minute Gaming would play the grand final in which Alpha Sydney would secure 1st seed by beating Jam Gaming 4-2. Alpha Sydney and Just a Minute Gaming had fought their way to the top of the Oceanic region to take their spot on the fields of Rlcs. Denial Esports, the 4th seeded North American team, would be Alpha Sydney's first taste of international competition. And while the desk had Alpha Sydney 3-1 favourites, it's pretty safe to say the rest of the world were not convinced. The stage was set. Alpha Sydney had travelled over 10,000 kilometres to get here. All that was left to do was to load into DFH Stadium.
Alpha Sydney here to defend Australia, the Canadians in the blue, and the Australians in the orange. We'll get the first game underway. Get up and get loud. It's game day at the World
Kickoff. No more time to make changes. It was now time to rely on their preparation. And Corrupted G has already scored. Alpha Sydney created quite a lot of chances in the 2nd and 3rd minute of gameplay, but Denial Esports had their net covered well. The OCE side were unable to register a goal, and their opponents closed out game 1, winning 3-0. Alpha Sydney were desperate to score their first goal on the international stage. having 3 shots and hitting the crossbar 4 times within the opening minute of Game 2. The pressure on the Denial net was huge. The first minute and a half was all played within the Denial half. And even with all that possession, Denial scored first through Lethamyr.
Corrupted G setting them up, and Lethamyr slams it home. Denial strikes first again.
The game opened up, and Alpha Sydney had more chances to score. Eventually, put themselves on the board with Jake scoring OCE's first goal and Drippe getting OCE's first assist at the RLCS.
Seem to have figured it out, tied up their first goal of the RLCS, and finally, after plenty of shots on target, putting pretty much four shots in the first minute, they're able to sink one in.
Chances on goal were traded in the final minute. Neither team would secure the go-ahead goal, and Alpha Sydney would get their first taste of sudden death Rocket League in Los Angeles.
It'll be Lethamyr to pop this one high. One last opportunity here in regulation. It'll drop down, hit the ground overtime for the first time in Season 3's land.
7 shots to 5. Alpha Sydney are in the lead, but this overtime might build up a bit of pressure. Can they tie up the series, Wave?
The golden goal to take the win of the game. Lofting this one. Torres looking for the shot on net. Lethamyr over the side.
Some desperate defense would show itself in overtime, and eventually Alpha Sydney would tie up the series with Torsos securing his first international goal, 2 minutes and 44 seconds into overtime.
Torsos decided to contest that over to Lethamyr, who waited just a bit too long to try and get the 50-50. After 2 minutes and 44 seconds, Alpha Sydney tie up the series, which actually has a lot.
Game 3. Alpha Sydney again would showcase some body on the line defense. 4.5 minutes passed in Game 3, and still no team held the lead. However, with 22 seconds remaining, Lethamyr would score, followed by Sad Jr. scoring at the death of the game with 3 seconds remaining. Alpha Sydney were now 1 loss away from dropping into the lower bracket. Game 4. Defense continues to be crucial for Alpha Sydney.
Here on both sides.
I think Alpha Sydney have to... Oh my! Shot from Lethamyr in the corner.
2 minutes in, Torsos would send the ball out to the wing, and Jake would do the rest.
Away cleanly to the side, and now the pass out. Jake with a quick transition. Can he get over the top of Corrupted G? It goes in! What a play! Jake gets it over the top, and Alpha Sydney's got the lead.
However, that lead wouldn't last. With 1 minute and 11 seconds to go, Sad Jr. would equalize for Denial. Drippe wasn't going to let the game stay even for long. And with 55 seconds remaining, he'd blast the ball in for a 2-1 lead for Alpha Sydney.
Drippe's got other ideas. It's Alpha Sydney in the lead again.
Game 5. The biggest game Alpha Sydney had ever played. Jake, Drippe, and Torsos were 1 win away from putting OCE on the map in their first ever RLCS appearance. Could they control their nerves and step up at the World Championship? 20 seconds in, Drippe finds the goal. Nerves settle.
Thank you very much. Alpha Sydney's in the lead again.
1.5 minutes later, Torsos gets a Game 5 goal.
Deal with 50-50s.
Torsos lost this one towards the net. Sad Jr. with the clear. And Jake set out towards Drippe. He has the opportunity. The shot goes high, but Torsos up with the follow-up. It'll go in. 2 goalies in. Then it doesn't matter. Alpha Sydney's up 2-0.
They are starting
Alpha Sydney, 2 goals up. 3 minutes remaining in Game 5. Hold on to this lead, and they would make history as the first OCE team to win a series at the RLCS.
He's going to try and set it up for Sad Jr. He's airborne.
Lethamyr scores. Alpha Sydney's lead is halved.
On the board.
Able to get the angle.
But instantly, Torsos replies and restores the 2-goal lead.
He doesn't want that. He wants to win right now. Increases the lead immediately back to 2.
Torsos pass. Jake, goal. Alpha Sydney, 4-1.
Both these touches were insane. It's a 3-goal game.
Wait, Buck, is this it? Will OCE win the first series of the day and their very first series here at the RLCS?
Drippe, shot off the ceiling. It's 5.
Now one goal. Is it going to go 4? It's 4. 35 seconds for a 4-goal. 4 goals has only happened 1 time in RLCS.
Oceania's first time at RLCS, and now 3 legends of OCE stood tall. Very few expected them to take a single game off international competition, and they'd just taken a series. To this day, when you think about OCE RLCS, Jake, Drippe, and Torsos' names stand out. And this was the series they put themselves and OCE on the globe. Alpha Sydney would go on to lose 3-1 against EU first seed and eventual grand finalists, Rlcs Esports, a team that had Fairy Peak and K-Dop amongst their ranks. The OCE side would also end up losing 3-1 against EU's third seed, the Leftovers, which are now World Championship winning coach Farah was playing for. Alpha Sydney had defied most expectations by taking a series off a North American side in their first RLCS. They certainly believed they could win the series, but turning that belief into reality is harder said than done. And thanks to that belief, OCE now had the respect of its international competition. Alpha Sydney would release Jake, Drippe, and Torsos from the roster on the 7th of July 2017. A month later, the squad would be acquired by Chiefs Esports Club, and their sights would be set on the RLCS Season 4 LAN for another shot at the best in the world. I'm Monty, thanks for watching.